either as solid, liquid, or gas. And so we see the Godhead there and all of those things. And I remembered a verse in the book of Ephesians, chapter 3, where Paul was talking about these measurements, breadth and length and so on. And I'm going, I bet there's three. So I read this verse, Ephesians chapter 3, verse 17. The Bible says that Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height. And I counted those and I went, wait a minute. There's not three directions given here. There are four. Why are there four? And it was a puzzle to me. And over time, God began to show me from the Bible what this fourth direction was in the Scriptures, what it was related to. And I'm going to show you, and we're actually, I don't want you to get this, we're going to understand why, if these UFOs are real, and I think some of them are, why are they able to do in this earth things that to us are seemingly impossible? How is it that they're able to appear, disappear? How are they able to move the way they move? Why is it that they're able to do that? It's very simple. They are not from, most of them, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. Most of them are not from this world. They're from another dimension. Sort of sounds like the Twilight Zone, doesn't it? They're actually from a different place that the Bible refers to by using the word height. Let's look at it again. May be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height. So he's telling us this word height represents a fourth direction, or an area outside of the bounds of our three-dimensional space where the spirits all gather. Let's look at other places in the Bible for verification of this. Job chapter 22, verse 12. Is not God where? In the height of the heaven. And behold the height of the stars, how high they are. Now, let me stop right here. Stars are angels. Let me give you proof of that. Let's go to Revelation 12. And we're actually going to go to Revelation 12 again. And so the Bible says in Revelation 12, verse 4, and his tail drew, this is the dragon, his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. So I want you to get this, and we're going to see it later on. The Bible's actually telling us that these stars are going to descend down to the earth. They're going to fall down to the earth. Okay? He then later says in verse 7, there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan. By the way, he's referred to in Isaiah chapter 14 as Lucifer, the son of the morning. Okay? A star, a bright star in the morning, the son of the morning. The great dragon was cast out, the old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And so the Bible says the height of the stars, behold how high they are. And stars is a phrase used to give us comprehension of angels. Stars equal angels in the Bible. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1. Let's look at the creation. We have day 1, where God created the heavens and the earth, and God created light. We have day 2, where God built a firmament, a firm place that separates the heavens from the earth, a place of division. On day 3, God sows all the seed and brings forth all the grass and all the trees of the earth and so on. And then on day 4, there's that number again. On day 4, the Bible says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. And let them be, let's count, let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And so the Bible says later on, God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So here we have this idea that this word height represents a fourth direction or a fourth dimension or the spiritual realm. This is where God exists in heaven, and this is where His angels exist. This is why Ezekiel sees them in groups of fours, and they have 4 wings. This is why John sees them in groups of 4. This is why they have 4 faces. So this is why they were created on day 4. The Bible's teaching you about this 4th direction and what it all implies. Psalm 102 verse 19. The Bible says, "For He hath looked down from the height of His sanctuary, from heaven did the Lord behold the earth." And so we know that heaven itself, the realm of God, is in the place called the height, which Paul mentions as the 4th direction, or the 4th dimension, or the spiritual kingdom. Now, and since we are talking about heaven, the greatest revelation, the greatest prophecy in the Bible is of a new kingdom. A kingdom whose builder and maker is God, a city whose builder and maker is God, and that city is New Jerusalem, and that city is going to come down from heaven. The opposite of that would be man trying to build a city in a tower in Genesis 11 whose top would reach into heaven. God actually has a city that is in heaven that is going to come down from heaven. Revelation 21:2, "And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband." Verse 16, the Bible says, "The city lieth foursquare." God is revealing to you that it is not an earthly kingdom. It's the kingdom of heaven. It is New Jerusalem built 4 In other words, it represents the height, the 4th dimension or the 4th direction that the Bible's teaching us about. "And the city lieth 4 and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal." In other words, it was a perfect square. It was built 4 square. Now back to this verse here. Job 22:12, "Is not God in the height of the heaven, and behold the height of the stars, how high they are." And we talked about this earlier, that God created all the angels. He created the orders of the angels. We have the men angels, we have the seraph angels, and we have the cherub angels. And God even created the good angels, and God created the bad angels. And actually, there's actually a verse we're going to look at here in a little bit. But God defines them this way. We've mentioned this earlier, but Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." This is the evil angel kingdom that we're seeing being manifested, and actually we're seeing an increase of that manifestation in the earth right now. And the idea that I am presenting to you is that with this increase of the evil manifestations of these evil angels, we're seeing an increase in UFO phenomenon. Is it coincidental? Is it just chance? I don't think the Bible has anything to do with chance. I think it's all written out there. And as we see, and as we're going along, now remember, God is telling us that His chariots are actually angels. And so I think that the legitimate, truly unidentified flying objects that appear out of nowhere, do things that nobody can ever understand, I think that they are a representation and manifestation of these beasts, and the spirit of the beasts is in these wheels. This kingdom, principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, spiritual wickedness in high places, was foretold that it would rise up one of these days and consume the entire earth. We go back to the book of Daniel, chapter 7. The Bible says, "And 4 great beasts," notice the number 4 there, "came up from the sea, diverse from one another." Daniel chapter 7, verse 7, "After this I saw in the night visions, behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth." I want you to notice the word iron. We're going to see it again. "It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse." It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. And so there was 3 beasts that rose up, and then a 4th one that came up. And notice that the Bible is telling you that it was different than anything else that had ever been seen before. Now, I want you to understand this, is that the kingdoms of this earth that have tried to rule over the earth. We have the Persian Empire back in the days of Daniel. We have the Grecian Empire. We have the Roman Empire. Now we have all these other little empires that are trying to take over planet Earth, and we have a New World Order and things like that. And one of the things that I believe totally from the Scriptures is that God's trying to tell us that this last kingdom that's going to take over planet Earth is not from this world. Every other kingdom that tried to take over the earth, it didn't work. It failed. They couldn't hold on to the power. This one's different. It's the fourth beast, the fourth kingdom that Nebuchadnezzar saw in Daniel chapter 2. That is a spiritual kingdom made up of evil angels, principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, and spiritual wickedness in high places. And so I'm studying through the Bible, and I'm seeing God is just unfolding these things. I cannot right now tell you what direction that fourth direction is. I don't know where it is. I cannot fathom it, but God is teaching it to us out of the Bible. And the thing about the fourth dimension, something in the fourth dimension is not really bound by the same rules that you and I here on this in three dimensions. Right now we're bound by time, we're bound by gravity, we're bound by the laws of physics and things like that. But a fourth dimensional object, or let's say a fourth dimensional creature such as an angel, they're not bound that way. From what we see from angels in the Bible, they just appear and then they disappear. And they have that ability because they do not normally exist in the realm that you and I live in right now. And so I started doing a little bit more research. You can actually read up on this. You can. There's some very simple articles on the internet. You kind of make it simple. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a advanced theoreticist of any kind. But I started reading some things, and some of it started to make sense. And when I was reading things about the fourth dimension, I'm going, you know what? That's in the Bible too. Let me give you a little example. There was a story. There was a guy by the name of Lewis Carroll. That wasn't his real name. His real name was Charles Dodgson. Charles Dodgson was, I think he was an Episcopalian minister, and he was a mathematician back in England in the 1800s. And he wrote a fictional story that sort of gave his theoretical ideas about the fourth dimension. He called it Alice's Adventures in the Looking Glass. Because the theory is that in the fourth... let me explain it this way. If you look into a mirror, okay, and you're able to see depth in the mirror, but actually the physical makeup of the mirror itself, it doesn't have any depth. The idea behind the fourth dimension, and all the theorists pretty much say the same thing, that the fourth dimension, actually, you're looking at your exact opposite. When you raise your right hand, the person in the mirror is not raising his right hand, it's raising his left hand. It's kind of weird this way. Paul talks about we all beholding as in a glass our face. We're really looking at Christ, but we're looking at who is our exact opposite. We are mortal, Christ is immortal. We are sinful, Christ is sinless. We are the offspring of men. Jesus was the Son of God. But the Bible teaches us that one of these days we are, instead of looking at Him in a mirror, we're actually going to be with Him and know Him, and we shall see Him as He is. In other words, we're going to kind of go through the mirror one of these days and be actually in the spirit realm. What was Alice's Adventures in the Looking Glass all about? It was about exactly that, her falling into a mirror. The Matrix movie was about Neo, who was trapped in this prison environment of a computer-generated world, and he wanted to escape out of that into the real world that they called Zion. Zion is another biblical name for New Jerusalem. And he wanted to get to Zion, and they're going to hook him up, and he has this experience, and this was taken right from Alice's Adventures. He touches a mirror and actually becomes and enfolds into the mirror, and that's how he escapes the world that he's in right now. Pretty interesting, because the Bible tells us that the skies that are spread out over us, or let's say the universe itself, is actually a mirror. Job